Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
From Mordor to Hogwarts to Gotham, the nerds have come together to create a show for nerds by nerds. Join nerds doing nerd things as they talk about all things nerdy. Stay up to date on the show by liking the Nerds Doing Nerd Things Facebook page.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to All-Star 15 TV on the broadcast tonight. Round number 6 of the High Point Racing League, the GT Challenge. We're coming to you live in beautiful France, in Le Mans, for a 90-minute double points slobber knocker of an event. Glad to have you guys here. Hit that like button, subscribe, follow, do all that wonderful stuff. We also have the chat rooms open so you guys can communicate with each other and with us. But let's get right into the broadcast booth helping me out this evening with such a large racetrack. We had to bring some heavy hitters into the broadcast booth. Starting with Mr. 8 Hours himself, Mike Campigio.
AJ, how we doing? How is everybody doing at home? Yeah, AJ, big night ahead of us here at Le Mans. This track is legendary. Coming off the finish that we had last week in a photo finish. Oh boy, I can't wait to get at it tonight.
And the one, the only, Brandon Storr.
I appreciate being here. I'm just excited for the fact that this is a track that is going to create so much opportunity for passing and it's going to create moments that we can explain in the moment so you understand what's going on.
And basically taking the role of Larry Mack this evening, feeling under the weather, wishing him that he gets over whatever he has as soon as possible. It's Joe Hutchings.
Buongiorno.
Wrong country.
I think it might actually be the right country if we try and figure
Right
out
country.
what
we said. Right country, actually. That movie took place in France.
I was going to say, Buongiorno is Italian. Or
Yes,
Italian.
I know.
I'm sorry, Italian.
It's Italian.
Gotta go back to that movie. Jesus. But how you doing, everybody? We are just wrapping up qualifying. And we're going to get to the grid. Mike, with Lamar, I know you've had a lot of experience here practicing and then crewing, and what are we expecting in these cars coming around this very historic racetrack?
Boy, AJ, we're expecting a lot. Fast speeds, fast corners, some treacherous corners, and you got to be on your A game around Le Mans, because if you're not, ooh, you can come out and bite you. These guardrails on the sides, these public roads, can come out and get you if you're not paying attention. But especially if this thing goes into the night too, it's gonna get pretty dark. Not a lot of lights around here, so you really got to stay on your toes. So, but it's a great track overall. Has so much history. Biggest race in the European calendar, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these boys got going on tonight.
Yeah, with everything going on this evening, just looking at lap times from qualifying. So these are the fastest laps these drivers are going to see within either session this evening. Avery Hart in the GT3 Pro with a fastest lap of a 3:53.33, just shy of a 4-minute lap time. And then Daniel Nass in the GT4 is a 4:14.82. This is going to be interesting because we're looking at 28 turns, 8.47 miles. It's a long racetrack that these drivers are very much going to have to stay on top of, and stay on top of the changing conditions that we are going to see. Rubber is going to get laid down. We're going to have a lot of sand, depending on if we have drivers go into these sand pits on the racetrack. So we're just going to wait and see how turn 1's going to go, because I feel like that's going to set everything up for how this race is going to go. As we see at a lot of racetracks, once you get through turn 1 or even through the first lap, is going to be very scary for these drivers. Can't win it, definitely can lose it. And Brandon, as we're getting ready to start the grid with Lamar, with it being double points, what do you think are going through some of these drivers' minds?
It really depends on where I'm at. If I'm looking at, your Avery Hart, your Brian Scott, who are able to start on pole, I'm looking at maintaining my position and having the lead. If I'm looking at Daniel Pino, if I'm looking at Michael Caffrey, and I'm going down through the field, and specifically talking about GT3 Pro and Pro Am, I want to ensure that I maximize my points and put myself in a position to overtake Avery Hart and Brian Scott, because these GT4 fields, you're looking at a gap of about 15 seconds. You're only going to see them 3 times or 4 times max on track during this race. So Daniel Nand is going to have to be able to compete and battle with Lance Campbell, and the GT3 Pro field and the GT3 Pro Am field are going to have to ensure they navigate that traffic at the right moment, and that's going to be the time to strike for Daniel Pino, Michael Caffrey, and the remainder of the field.
Yeah, and for everybody watching at home, your GT3 Pro and Pro Am classes will start the race integrated with each other. The GT4 will be separated. So it's going to be interesting because you have Avery Hart, Daniel Pino, Spencer Duquette, and Justin Bach are your first 4 drivers in that grid, and they're all pro drivers. But then it's Brian Scott, Michael Caffrey, Jed Cotterman, and Liam Hobol. The next 4 drivers are all Pro-Am contenders. It's gonna be a fun event, and it's really going to put these drivers through their paces. Just looking at practice, with it being a 4-minute lap time for these drivers, you don't see a lot of laps for most of these drivers. It really takes a long time to just get acclimated unless you're practicing beforehand. And this league is absolutely fantastic with setting up practices during the week. But let's take a look at the starting lineup for your GT3 pros. It's Avery Hart, Daniel Piener, Spencer Duquette, your top three. Then it's Bach, Smith, and Shaw rounding out the field. And just a reminder, once again, they are integrated into the Pro-Ams as well. Then it's Brian Scott, Michael Caffrey, Jed Cotterman, Liam Habol, and Christopher Coy, your top five in the Pro-Ams. Then it's Kenneth Clota and Jacob Cotterman making his return. Chet Miller and Mark Ozer taking a look at the wonderful GT4 drivers, expecting a lot of aggression and fun with watching them this evening. It's Daniel Noss, Lance Campbell, Cole Malley, Jim Peely, and Aiden Keeley, your top five. Then it's Christopher Groden, hoping to bounce back after last week's lap one issues. To John Voight, James Langevin, and Cameron Kilma, your starting lineup for today's double points event at Le Mans. These drivers are making the way to their vehicles, not like what you've seen in Ford versus Ferrari. They will actually start the race in their vehicles, rolling, not running to their cars, getting squared away as we're about to start rolling. But let's talk about the beautiful points and how they sit, because it's not just double points gain, it's also double points loss. Avery Hart leading the field in the pros over Lakin Shaw. Daniel Pino third, Spencer Duquette fourth, and Steve Smith in fifth. Your Pro-Am drivers: Jed Cotterman leading the field. Then it's Kenneth Cloden, Mark Ozer third, Brian Scott in fourth, Ty Baxter in that fifth position. You can see how they square away all the way down to 12th place, Michael Caffrey. Your GT4 drivers, huge field for them. Lance Campbell showing the way there over Daniel Noss. Ryan Serlick in third, Aiden Keeley and James Langevin rounding out that top five. We are just about to go green, everybody. Looking at the track temp, 69 degrees. Race is starting right around 5:17 in sim. It's a beautiful 68 degrees for everybody here in Le Mans, France. This is going to be fun. Everybody's going to want to take a win here. Everybody's going to want a good event this evening. Able to possibly gain a lot of points, but you also got to be careful. You could lose a lot of points, as we are just a couple turns away from sending these vehicles on the loud pedal into turn number one. AJ Capola, Mike Campiggio, Brandon Storr, and in the garage, it's Joe Hutchings. Pace car's going to take that right-handed turn onto pit road momentarily.
Go back to running starts.
You see Avery Hart leading the field. Pace car is off and green flag is in the air, and away they go. So far so good with the GT3s, as the GT4s are getting through the final couple turns. Looks like they are going single file, and they are green as they cross the start finish line. Your GT4s have crossed the line, heading down towards turn number one. And Daniel Noss already with a nice almost second lead over Lance Campbell. Looks like early on, Christopher Coy, Lakenshaw trying to gain
Jed
some
Cutterman.
positions
Jed
back.
Cutterman sitting sideways in the middle of the track, AJ.
And he's lost his wing.
Oh, there's a GT4 around too.
Jed Cotterman in the 7 Ford Mustang. What happens here? Oh, he just loses it. Cold tires hard into the tire barrier.
That was the same spot I saw him spin in practice, too.
Now let's
Well,
take a
that's
look
an
at
extremely
the
difficult part of the track.
Mercedes of Cole Malley in the GT4s.
That
Good.
entire section of track is so difficult under green flag conditions right off the bat. You have cold tires, you have off-camber turns, and it's a technical portion of the track before you get into the long straightaway. Where currently we have our GT3 field that has been pretty consistent, straight line out front, just as an update.
And as we just saw when we went back to live, Jed Cotterman sitting on pit road after having the jump to pit road. And we mentioned earlier you could lose the race on lap 1 and Jed Cotterman having issues on lap 1. And you see these drivers coming down the front stretch, swerving, trying to get their heat in their tires. And it's going to be interesting this first lap.
These drivers are going to attempt to do anything that they can to ensure they've got
John
heat
Voight,
tires.
sorry.
John Voight, yep.
James Langevin, John Voight.
Yeah, lots of chaos going on under cold tires. We did start off this race without the ability to be able to warm up the tires a full amount as we see him going around there on stream.
I think he was trying to send it. Let's check the very, very far chase cam.
Yeah, he was sending it. Oh, yeah, he was sending that. Maybe not a move you want to make on lap 1?
No, I don't think so
I think
either,
that's a
especially
lap
with the cold
4 or
tires.
5. Absolutely.
We are back on the live screen. You can see that both Voigt and Langevin have got going once again. But Daniel Noss currently that leader in the GT4s, but Lakenshaw has spun around and has lost the wing.
Ooh.
Ooh, there he goes. Oh, he just taps it.
Yeah. Just kissed it.
And it's enough to knock off that back wing. He'll be coming to pit road. And he's going to loop it again.
I'd like to say that's a stereotypical Ford thing, but out front, we do have Daniel Pino who has made his way around Avery Hart during that process of lap 1. And it's great to see Pino out front. We're in wine country. You know, whether you like a Pinot Grigio, a Pinot Noir, you got to like yourself a Daniel Pino who's doing a great job at the start.
Yeah, and he's still...
Oh, is he slowing? He's slowing.
I think
is he smoking?
No, I think he might have clipped too much of that curb and had to slow down.
Cutting the course.
But he gives Avery Hart first place back. And now has to refire and get back towards Avery Hart as Justin Bach sitting in 30s plus a spot. He's right on their back bumper. Then we drop back a couple positions to the first 2 drivers in the Pro-Am division. Brian Scott and Michael Caffrey under 3/10 separating the 2 of them, trying to use the draft going down the Mulsanne Straight.
That's what's going to be so technical about this track. There's a lot of straightaways, a lot of drafting. You're going to see drivers who are going to want to stay tucked up behind that car in front of them to be able to have the ability to either make it past the straightaway like we see here going on with Michael Caffrey, or to be able to save fuel and be able to do an overcut.
Oh, we just jinxed him.
Bach is around.
Justin Bach. Like he heard his name.
And the commentator curse.
Don't hit anything. Don't hit anything. Don't hit anything.
What I'm trying to figure out is why are these guys running the road crown right in the center of the track? All it's doing is bottoming out the car and ruining your speed. pick a lane and stay in it.
Yeah, it really stinks that that Justin Bach spun, but not hitting anything after a mistake probably makes you feel so much better.
Well, and especially when you make the decision not to hold the brake. If you hold the brake, I think you back it into that wall, and you're trusting that you know your gap on your relative, that you can come back across the track and not get hit. So great heads up move.
Yeah, I really think, and Joe says it a lot on the channel, racing IQ.
You have to be glancing at everything on track. When you're driving these cars, it's not the same as driving a real life car, obviously, but there are nuances that make this difficult in other ways. And one of those is that you have the ability to look at your relative and to make decisions based on the cars that are around you.
As we are watching this great battle right now between the GT3 cars.
Oh no! Brian Scott, or is that? Can't tell who got damaged.
Brian Scott's missing the nose.
All right, everybody. I apologize that we're gonna have to do it this way, but nothing populated on my end, so we are gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way.
I think it's down in the braking zone. I think you just misjudged this braking zone.
Oh yeah.
And that's such a challenging portion. You have to decide before that kink in the turn, are you going to let off your brake a little bit before and optimize your entry, or are you going to optimize your exit by being able to roll through a little bit more? And two different styles of entering that corner.
And it really stinks because all he did was misjudge the braking zone of Michael Caffrey in front of him. That was it.
Well, and that's the detriment of you're trying to optimize your draft with everyone. You're trying to stay super close, and that's why this track is so fun to watch. He is staying out. I would have come down pit road personally. I don't know. What about you guys?
He does not have a meatball, but I would have come down because you're hemorrhaging lap time and you're probably hemorrhaging grip until you get that fixed. And let's see where he's going to end up and how much time he loses to Caffrey or Duquette and even Smith. We'll give it a lap, and maybe he's just trying to feel out the car right now. Wow.
It truly is just so difficult because I think in the technical portions, he's not going to have a disadvantage, but he has to stay up tight. He's got to get close to whatever car he's able to get to in order to minimize the drag he's going to have on the front of his car.
As we drop back to the GT4s for a second, Daniel Nuss still leading that field, but then he's got Lakin Shaw right next to him. Lakin's trying to make their way back up into the GT3 running order, which he does with that pass. But then you have Lance Campbell, who's just under 2 seconds back from Daniel Nuss. Jim Peely sitting in that third position as they are all passing Liam Habul, who's currently sitting on pit road. But up front, Avery Hart, Daniel Pino, under 2 seconds going into the chicane.
Well, and I've been watching this battle for a while because this, to me, is the epitome of what I would want to be doing. Mr. Wine Country himself, Daniel Pino, sitting behind the car in front of him, being able to optimize the fuel economy in his car, being able to optimize his lap times to be right on the car without having to put in the efforts of destroying his equipment, without having to destroy his tires, without having to put in too much extra energy. To me, he's doing everything right to set himself up for a great pit stop and to be able to make a pass after the pit cycle.
Yeah, I need you to check, one of you guys to check this out if you can. Can you take a look at Daniel Pino or Brian Scott's incident points? Because while they're sitting in second place and sixth place respectively, they don't have a lap time on my end. So they have two laps of invalid lap times, at least on my end.
Well, So what I am seeing in terms of incident points, I am seeing that Avery Hart has 0 and Daniel Pino has 1, which I've been analyzing this front group. That's kind of been how I felt my role needed to be, is watching the very front of this pack. And neither of them have really set a foot wrong. As we see, Daniel Pino did just put a slight tire off track and has now gone up to 2 incident points as he's falling behind. And that's the difficulty that he's going to have. He's going to have less visualization the closer he follows to his apexes, to his entries, and to his exits, as that exit was just a little bit sloppy trying to maintain that gap.
And as we were trying to figure out what's going on with these top 2 drivers as they are battling, James Langevin in the GT4s with an issue. You see him in the 87 Porsche. Very, very slow. And I think something broke on it. He's going to end up jumping the pit road. Looking for other battles. Christopher Coy trying to get to Kenneth Cloden in front of him. But then he also has Chet Miller right behind him in the Allied Corvette.
Well, one thing I want to point out is we had James Langevin go off track, and what was it that broke? It is worth mentioning. This is an hour and 30-minute race where we have not had that yet this season. And sometimes the thing that breaks is the willingness to continue and finish the race, because this race is so long and it's so challenging. That's why we have endurance racing.
And with every race we've done throughout this season, it's race number 6. So 1 through 5, they're only an hour long. And you think about it, here, what's an extra half hour? Well, it's about 6 or 7 laps. That's it. Other places, it's closer to 10 or 15. And it's a very, very difficult racetrack with 38 turns, and it takes you 4 minutes or so to get around it. It's a very grueling racetrack that these drivers are going to have to deal with, and now are going to have to deal with it with the sundown.
Yeah, AJ, that's exactly what I was going to mention. It's getting to the sundown point, and this track is going to go through a change now. It's going to get a lot cooler as we go further into the night here.
This would be one of the racetracks that I would want somebody spotting for me, at least looking ahead of your race car to see if there's any damages, because there are some blind turns that they're going to have to deal with, especially at the end of the Mulsanne straight. That right-hander is blind for the most part, and then having a crew chief here, I feel like, is very beneficial, and it looks like only a couple of drivers actually have that. Brandon, it looks like you got something.
Yeah, and to the point that both of you are saying about the longevity of this race, it was asked at the beginning of this race by the drivers in the field, and Race Control did confirm this race will finish under a full dark lit sky, which means that ensuring your front end is intact to be able to have lights is truly important, which for Brian Scott, he will need to ensure that that front end gets corrected in order to have lights on the track. Otherwise, he won't be able to see down the back straightaway and other technical portions of this track, but we will be able to see sparks under the lights to close out.
Yeah, that's a great pull, Brandon. Right now, it doesn't look like it's hurting Brian Scott too bad. But once that sun goes down a little bit further, he's going to have to hit pit road well before I feel like everybody else. And it might hurt him. It could very much hurt Brian Scott's efforts in the GT3 Pro-Am. But also looking with this hour-and-a-half race, normally these drivers do not take tires. I really think with it being an extra 30 minutes, we might see some tire games. Some drivers might try to extend it, as Aiden Keeley in the GT4s. The 115 on your screen. Oh, it's going to overshoot the turn. Yeah, there's that stop and go that he had to make.
Personally, I feel like when it comes down to taking tires, it really depends on how hard you're pushing. That's why drivers like at the very front, Daniel Pino, drivers further down the field in other series such as, Kenneth Cloden, Christopher Coy, and going down into the GT4s and Lance Campbell and Jim Peel, or Pele, I apologize if there's a mispronunciation. Those drivers have set themselves up where they're not pushing all out at the beginning. They have to manage that gap to the front to ensure that they manage their tires and can potentially do a double stint on their tires, because in endurance, you can double stint it if you take care of your equipment. If you don't, you have to take tires.
Mike, I know for the most part in your iRacing road career, you're starting to dip into the driver's seat more often, which is absolutely great to see. But you've been a very important crew chief for a lot of drivers. What are you telling, if you do have a human crew chief, what are you telling your driver early on in this race, as we are already almost 17 minutes into the race and only on lap 5? What are you telling your driver trying to get to that hour 30 mark?
Well, AJ, I'm telling the drivers now, like, let's settle into a rhythm. Let's save some tire here. Let's, prepare ourselves for a long run and kind of be there at the end. And then it's going to come down to the situation on the pit stop. If the guy wants to take tires, if you feel like he's been able to, take care of this stuff pretty good, then we can roll the dice and say, all right, we're just going to take fuel only and we'll go the rest of the way. But if it feels like the driver did not take care of his stuff, then we're going to take 4 tires. But it also, another key factor that we need to watch, especially on cold tires, if some of these guys do take tires, it's going to be very cold. Track is going to be very cool as well as the outside air temperature, and that's going to make it almost feel like you're driving on ice.
That's a great pull, Mike. It's going to take even longer for those tires to get up to temperature, as it looks like Chris Grodin with an issue in the GT4s. Taking a look at what we have. Oh, the car just gets light, and he just loops it in the 619 Ford Mustang.
Well, and that's another challenging part of the track. You go from more of a high speed, having to balance your speed kink, to you have a on camber to a camber switch left-hander, trying to keep the GT4s under you, while you're having that change is really challenging.
We got a battle for the lead right now.
We do. Daniel Pino, the last 2 laps, it feels like, is trying everything to get by Avery Hart. Not being successful, though. But let's jump on board with Daniel Pino.
And I'm wondering if Pino is truly trying to get by him. And I apologize if I interrupted, AJ. I heard you were trying to talk. However, I feel like what he's trying to do is what I would be trying to do. I'd be trying to sit behind and save as much as possible. If I'm Avery Hart at the front, I'm trying to conserve what I can, telling Daniel Pino, if you want by me, go for it, my guy. I'm going to save my equipment. That way, then I can take as minimal time on pit road as possible.
We are on board with Daniel Pino, Brandon, and while I could see him coasting maybe a little early into the turns, he's right back in the throttle, pulls right back to the rear end of Avery Hart, going through these S's, heading back towards the start-finish line after the next couple chicanes. He might get an incident point by just bump drafting him here.
And that's possible. He has bumped up to 3 incident points now this race. And that's what comes with making your car available for the draft, as we see that Avery Hart has gone a little bit off track there. If he truly wants to pass, right there, if I'm Daniel Pino, that's where I'm making that pass. He went off track a little bit. I have a draft. We're entering a passing zone, and while I may be on the outside of that passing zone, I know it's an hour and 30-minute race, and Avery Hart will not challenge me into turn 2 right there.
And he had the run coming out of the final turn down that short front stretch to attempt or make the pass, and he chose to bump Avery Hart instead.
Exactly. If I'm Avery Hart, I recognize that as a racer, that you are saying you want to preserve your equipment, which means I can do what I want to preserve my equipment. You decide when you're passing me, because until we get to the pit cycle, I know I'm going to have the advantage if I can preserve my equipment and have the lead. As we see a bump draft now going down the back straightaway. And we're going to see Daniel Pino let off just a little bit early right here to ensure there's a gap between the cars. Conservative driving. Both of them right now are ensuring that Spencer Duquette and Steven Smith do not have an opportunity. And if I'm those two drivers, if there's anyone in my ear saying, what do I do to ensure I'm on the podium? I'm ensuring that we're replicating what they're doing out front, because this to me is the epitome of what endurance racing should be.
Yeah, Avery Hart, Daniel Pino are basically making it so they're the only two fighting for the win later on.
It's just it. Part of endurance racing is picking and choosing your battles, because to win all your battles doesn't mean you win the war. And this race is a war if you've ever been through an endurance race.
Sticking with this battle, it's one of the closest ones we have on the racetrack. If we do jump back, it will be to the Brian Scott, Michael Caffrey, and Justin Bach battle, as that's closed in. Brian Scott has caught the rear end of Michael Caffrey again.
Well, and that's an interesting one because we have a dual class battle. They may be GT3s, but in this series we have GT3 Pro and GT3 Pro Am, and all of them are battling here as we see coming down the inside, and Brian Scott kind of watching this side-by-side battle, taking his time. But
Oh,
these
they're
drivers
going
have,
3 wide.
3 wide. Oh yeah, we're going 3 wide.
At
that's
Le
a
Mans.
decision.
And I think that's a smart move by Michael Caffrey to, all right, I don't want to wreck in this. You see Justin Bach, he's the pro driver in that blue and orange. Used to seeing Golf there, but it's BRT on the hood of that Aston Martin.
Oh, that's tight.
Boy.
That is tight through there. Yeah, that is very tight through there.
Well, and that is the epitome of choosing your battle versus choosing the war. Justin Bach is currently sitting in 5th in his class. To him, this battle means something. He does not care what is going on up front. He needs to gain positions. He needs to gain speed. The war, though, is between Brian Scott, Michael Caffrey. They are worried about their positioning and the points they will gain. Justin Bach needs to get positions, and he's willing to lay it all out there.
Yeah, he's already almost 30 seconds behind the leaders, but only 9 seconds behind Steven Smith, the next position ahead of him, as Avery Hart, Daniel Pino hitting pit road.
Wow.
What you got for us, Joe?
Together.
Yeah, crew chief, what you got on the strategy here?
Why not? You probably they're running 60% fuel still, right? AJ?
Yes, Spencer Duquette, Steve Smith.
Yeah.
The pro drivers are hitting pit road.
Yep. This is you're
Here
gonna
comes-
split this race into 3 pieces.
Here comes everybody now.
Maybe more than 3 pieces, Joe. It's only 24 minutes in the race.
They all could be out of fuel.
They might have to pit at 48 minutes, and then once
Boy,
again
this-
at an hour 15.
Boy, this is a busy pit road. I mean, it's just a stream of cars coming in.
Absolutely, Mike. Holy cow.
Well, it didn't look to me like, Joe, anyone took tires. And I'm the only one in here who is not crew chief to car through an endurance race. All 3 of you have. Joe, I feel like you've done it the most. So my question to you, you didn't take tires this stint. If you have to do 2 pit stops, should you have taken tires at the beginning? Or if you have to do 3, wouldn't you have taken tires on this cycle?
I would have taken tires on this cycle, and then the next pit stop, I would have left the hot tires on the car because coming out with a lighter fuel load, you would want those tires up to temp quicker.
Yeah, I'd
But
be
this is going
backwards.
to be interesting strategy.
I would be backwards. I would just have double stinted tires both times.
I don't think you're going to survive an hour on tires.
Well, I don't even think you're going to get to an hour. They're going to be back on pit road around 48 or so minutes.
Yeah, they'll be changing tires then.
But now
The
we
question
just don't
is-
have a battle for P1 and P2. We have a battle for third as Spencer Duquette and Steve Smith. It looks like Duquette did take tires, being on pit road for an extra 20 seconds.
Well, this is where Steven Smith, I apologize, has to make the decision. Are you going to try and pass that driver who passed you on pit road? Are you going to try and push him or hope he pushes you and has that, as Joe loves to say, racing IQ?
Rickon, 7. Jed Cotterman is around.
Oh, Jed Cotterman and John Voight get together.
Ooh.
Good thing they were able to keep it going and I got stuck in the gravel.
I think the gravel pit
Well-
saved them, Mike.
I can tell you that Jed Cotterman came over the radio apologizing. So for those of you at home who are not fully aware of passing zones versus, is this a riding zone? You know, what do you do to optimize your lap time in a race? That's a point right there where you're in an S's rotation. You're going right, then back to the left immediately. And you actually gain time by not passing the car in front of you. Jed owned up, apologized to the car in front of him, saying, I thought you were going to stay high going through that second portion of the S's. So really happy to hear there's good sportsmanship there.
I found that pretty interesting there. That we were seeing some bump drafting going down that long straightaway there.
Yeah, good thing
Yeah.
it's not Xfinity or truck racing where they get black flag. Oh, come on, Mike. That was funny, even for you.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have a
I
comment
should
no
see
one
what
wants to hear me say.
You all should have seen Le Mans in the 80s when they had no chicanes and you saw the leapfrogging. Yeah, you see 40 cars leapfrogging each other in the draft is great.
Let's take a trip through the field as you see Avery Hart and Daniel Pino, a 10th separating the two of them. It looks like they're very consistent. Not consistent. Very okay with the way things are running right now. They'll battle it out later because they keep putting on about 2 seconds a lap on Steve Smith and Spencer Duquette 3 and 4 in the pro, and then Justin Bach in 5th with the pro drivers. Then we have 6 Pro-Am drivers. Brian Scott leading that field. Christopher Coy, Chet Miller, Jacob Cotterman, Mark Ozer, and Kenneth Cloden. Then you have the Ford Mustang of Lakin Shaw pro driver rounding out that pro field. Then we get to the GT4s. This is where the fun starts. Daniel Nass has almost 10.5 seconds over Lance Campbell. Then it's Jim Peely, Cole Malley, 1 through 4. That's how they sit in the GT4s. Then you have 2 Pro-Am drivers, Jed Cotterman and Liam Habol. Then once again you have John Voight, Aiden Keeley, Cameron Kilma, and Christopher Gloden from 5th through 8th in the GT4s. So everybody, for the most part, as you can see, the track map and the numbers on those drivers, they're spread out pretty good, and your 2 leaders have clear track ahead of them.
Well, clear for only one of them. The other one's hoping the other one knows where he's going. Well, and just to reiterating some driver comms that are going on, it does sound like a driver who's out of this race did have a spotter on board and is offering his services. And some drivers who are sitting in a position to make some moves are denying it, which, you know, some of them know what they're doing. Some of them, it doesn't help or hurt either way to have that second gear.
As we're still looking at this battle, P1 and P2. Spencer Duquette and Steve Smith. But here comes Justin Bach and Brian Scott. Brian Scott, a Pro-Am driver, has caught Justin Bach, and look at that. That McLaren's got lights now and a brand new front end.
He just needed a little bit of time on pit road, and that car was going to start shining again.
Now, we thought after that damage, he was going to have to come down pit road, repair it. How important, Mike, was it that he kept it on the racetrack and didn't lose as much time as, honestly, what we thought he was going to lose?
I mean, it surprised me too because I thought he was going to lose a lot more time than he did. But impressive showing to. I mean, 2 positions. That's still impressive not to lose more like 4, 5, 6. You know, but now you're back in the game. You got your front end all situated. You're back in the game now.
And that is 2 overall positions. He's currently P1 and plus 7 seconds on Christopher Coy, who's second place in class to Brian Scott. That's amazing. Looks like none of your GT4 drivers have come down pit road yet. They've all stayed out on the racetrack and are all working around the chicanes on that back straightaway, the Mulsanne straight. You see Daniel Nass with a 23-second lead over Jim Peel.
Well, and these cars are very different cars. The way that they handle, the way that they operate are extremely different. We saw our GT3 field come down pit road roughly around 6 laps into the race. Now, it's possible, as we were talking strategy, that they want to have better tires to close out or whatever it may be to close out the end of this race. It's possible they did that because of the tire fall off that happens. And these GT4s, while they have tire fall off, it is not nearly extreme because there's not an aerodynamic advantage or a downforce advantage to these dumpsters that are on track. And I know I say that when I talk about GT4s, but if you've ever driven a GT4, these cars are dumpsters. The amount of skill it takes for Daniel Nans and for Jim Peel or Cole Malley to take these things around track, there's a lot of skill that goes into play because it doesn't do what you want it to do. If you had a smart car, it does that. Like, it does what a smart car wants to do rather than what, your Corvette wants to do.
Brandon, that was wild.
It's reality. GT4s are wild as they are. As we're back out front with Avery Hart, with Daniel Pino behind.
Now, I know we're only on that back straightaway, but we have a little bit of a Brandon fun, good 4-minute lap time. Hope you take a drink before you do it, but we're gonna do a ride along from Daniel Pino. When he hits that start finish line, it's gonna be 4 minutes of Brandon and Daniel Pino taking you around Le Mans. You ready for that?
No, I don't know if you want to call it a Daniel Pino, a Pinot Grigio, a Pinot Noir, or Brandon doing his thing, but I'm ready for it.
It's gonna be fun. It would be great if Pino makes the pass and gets by. Like, I would assume at some point they're going to switch and then battle it out later in the race. I'd be nervous if I was Avery Hart.
Daniel Pino's minding his time, ensuring he does it at the right moment, because unlike most Ford Mustang drivers, you don't just go all out and hit the crowd. You make sure, at least Daniel Pino is making sure he goes all out at the right moment.
Yeah, and here comes the GT4 field all hitting pit road now, and it looks like they are taking tires.
Well, and for them, I think that cycle seems right. As Joe was saying, and Joe, feel free to interrupt if need be, you want to ensure that you have those warm tires at the end of the race, because when the track cools off even more as the sun completely goes down, you need some sort of heat in those tires, or you are going to be on ice skates. I know that's exactly what Campigio was saying earlier.
Sorry.
Mark Ozer.
Oh, and Daniel
Steve
Pino's
Smith's
around.
correct.
Oh, Pino. Was that Pino?
Yeah, it was.
It is.
Give us a sec. We'll get you right to that. Ozer is going to loop it coming off the Mulsanne straight. And Daniel Pino. P2.
Oh. Oh, keep it off.
Don't.
Oh, I got it.
The wing is still there.
It is still there, but that is so challenging of a portion when you are that close. You can't imagine how close you are to that car in front of you until you're in a portion of the track that you have to see every apex you're going through, like that portion there.
And Pino has to come down pit road.
Did you get the Steve Smith wreck? He tank slapped it in Indianapolis, I think it was.
This should be it here. Oh, look at him try to save it the whole way.
It's a little wide.
All right, Brandon. What's backup? Who do you want as backup? Go
Maybe
right
Mark?
along.
As we're going through, what I want to see right now at this point, I would like to see Brian Scott, if that's possible, our GT3 Pro-Am first place driver, the one who did not have his front end at one point in time.
There you go.
As he's going through, so he's got the car in front of him, and right now we're going through specifically the S's portion of the track, a very technical portion of the track, that as he's trying to maximize his speed, he needs to ensure that this, Tentre Rouge corner, and if I apologize right now, I will, in my pronunciation of that. I call it El Rouge, and I know it's not El Rouge. But that portion of the track, you have to maximize this straightaway because you're going down the Mulsanne straight. And while we may have our bus stops now at this point, you have to maximize these speeds to be able to make up your time, because if you don't, this is where you're going to lose all your time. And what he's going to look for now is he's coming into his first bus stop. He's going to look for the right moment to be able to hit the brakes, which is roughly the 200-meter mark out is going to be his braking zone, which I believe is what he had hit based on what I'm seeing on track. He's making his way through, and he's got the maximum exit possible. You don't want to overdrive the bus stop because then you're not maximizing your straightaways. So same thing. What we see right now is he's driving through the center portion of the track, and Joe even said it, don't drive down the center portion of the track. What I'm sure he doesn't realize is that when you drive down that center portion, there is a hump in the center of the road there, because this is a natural road that they have created into this road course. And so there has to be water fall off in either direction if it were to rain. So driving down the center is actually going to cause the car to slow down and bottom out as he's going down. So if it's me right here, I'm going to ride myself to the left-hand portion of the track, because what we're going to come up on is to Mulsanne itself. And that's where I'm going to lie myself as left as possible, coast in right here at the center portion of the track, and then be able to maximize then this entry into the corner. Because right here you have another decently long straightaway. It's technically turns 16 and 17, which are going to be slight kinks, which are going to take him into the Indianapolis turn, which is going to be at the very end of this straightaway. Now, entering into Indianapolis is challenging, because as you come down here, you're going to want to hit the brakes early as you make your first right-hander. And the reality is you want to be able to let off your gas to be able to maximize your apex at the entry, to be able to then go hard on the brakes so you are not increasing the amount of time on the brakes to make you left-hander, to be able to then get into this right-hander where you're going to have another long straightaway. And so right here, the reason I wanted to ride along with him, I was hoping he was a little bit closer specifically to Steven Smith, as we have Steven Smith and Justin Bach in front of us that are in a battle. But if I'm that car looking to be able to gain positions or maximize what I'm doing, as I go through the Porsche curves where we're at right now, I'm trying to ensure the maximum flow through these corners. And we see it right now. He's even gaining time on Steven Smith as we're now coming through GT4s throughout the field. And so what he has to make a decision on is, am I going to make a pass right here or am I not? And he's got the ability to make that decision. He's choosing to make the pass. He's hoping that GT4 stays in his line, which he does, which is positive. But what we're going to do now, after we're out of the Corvette curves into the Ford chicanes, which we're in currently, we have to ensure that we are single file as the car is going around right in front of him, and he's coming to the start-finish line, maximizing his speed to get to the Dunlap curves.
And you saw
Justin
that
Bach.
right in front. Justin Bach. Wow.
And that's how your brain has to be thinking. Someone's going to spin in front of you, and you're thinking about everything I was rattling off. It is so challenging as we see Justin Bach go around.
And he just stays in the gas. Wow.
Yeah, very good job to keep it off the wall.
The only thing we didn't see was his hand out the window.
It wasn't Talladega.
I was more thinking the rodeo.
The rodeo.
Oh. That's only if you're in a Mustang.
But what does this do, Mike, for Avery Hart? Doesn't have somebody on his back bumper.
Aiden Kelly's around.
Aiden Kelly, waiting for him to get there. It is. But Mike, you don't have Daniel Pino right behind Avery Hart anymore. Oh God,
that was
violent.
That was something. I'll tell you that much.
And that was that Lakin Shaw that hit him? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was. Was it?
That looked like the
Let's go back and look at it again.
No, that wasn't. Who's got the hooligan
No.
car? It was
Anyway,
Kenneth
while
Cloden.
you're what were you gonna ask me there, AJ, before we saw what happened?
Daniel Pino isn't right behind Aiden Kelly anymore, and the next driver behind is Spencer Duquette, almost 28 seconds back. What does this do now for Avery Hart on how he is running his race? Does anything change?
You know, I think nothing really changes right now. Just keep doing what you're doing because, I mean, everybody else is having trouble behind you. Just keep running your race, be smooth, and, you know, save some tire and get ready to do your fuel strategy and get to the end of this. Get the end of this sucker. He's putting out a good race, though.
Yeah, he's putting qualifying laps down.
Now with what 45 minutes left, we got around that range.
Just
I don't think you
around
want to keep.
that, we are just shy of halfway.
I don't think you want to keep doing qualifying laps.
No, but if you're looking at lap time, laps, we're just shy of halfway. 43:40 right now. It's only lap 11. That's how big this racetrack is.
Yeah, I calculated 23 laps.
Wow.
Look at you go.
I was thinking about 30. That's what I thought, but
Joe's got a calculator in his head.
I just want to point out that teachers at one point in time told us you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket.
yup.
And that sticks with me to this day, that it's not about what they say you can't do. It's about how you solve the solution of what they say you can't do.
And that all backfired on them.
That absolutely.
It was like 22.6 laps.
Well, it's usually the laps that show plus one.
Oh, you good?
Yeah, sorry. As you can tell, I still have a cold. And the meds are kind of draining everything out of my nose right now, so I'm dealing with that. But Daniel Nuss, 30 seconds
you're
ahead of
out.
Jim Peely and Cole Malley. That's getting to be a close battle. Jim Peel, 4:19.17 last time by. Cole Malley, 3 seconds faster. If he keeps that up, we're going to have a battle for P2 in the GT4s within this lap, most likely.
Well, I'm glad you changed the topic to the GT4s because I've had my eye for a little bit on John Voight and Lance Campbell. And they just had a GT3 car come through that has unfortunately slowed down John Voight, who was making up ground on Lance Campbell. So the GT4 field is actually pretty close in proximity and creating a great battle, considering these cars have so much body roll to them.
Oh, Keely with
I
another
really think.
issue.
Let's take a look.
Sorry, Brandon. Oh, he clips the grass on the left side. It's gonna screw him up for the turn.
Oh yeah. Oh
Ooh.
man.
And back to your
Yeah,
regularly scheduled programming with what Brandon was saying.
No, and I apologize. He transitioned from an Aston Martin to an expensive Honda to a wrecked Aston Martin. But what we've got here specifically, we got John Voight. Like I said, he's trying to ensure he's maximizing his draft. He's following him behind. He's cut this down. He was about 0.7 behind when we made it across the start-finish line. And as we're going through, specifically looking through these bus stop entries, he's trying to ensure he has the maximum exit possible, as he's now got a GT3 going alongside of him. But he's trying to ensure he closes out that gap as much as possible. But that's the closest battle we have on track for our GT4s, is between John Voight and Lance Campbell.
Absolutely, and it's getting closer between Jim Peel and Cole Malley, under 2 seconds now. That's for P2 in the GT4s, and for what Brandon was just talking about, that's for P4 in the GT4s, as that's even closer now.
Yeah, and what we saw was the GT3 car that had gone past before played a factor in the draft that Lance Campbell was getting, whereas right here, this GT3, he's making his decision to kind of slowly go through the track. He's going to be making this pass specifically at a point where Lance Campbell doesn't necessarily want him to. There's no benefit. He has to be thinking about his turn going through here a little bit more than normal, which means that John Voight can think about his exit as he comes out 0.5 seconds behind Lance Campbell. And again, this is a portion of the track right here. You know, we got out of Mulsanne. We're going through the kinks, or 16 and 17, which are not true kinks in the track, but just minor turns. And he's going to stick to the left-hand side, try and set himself up for a good solid apex to the right, maximize his apex through Indianapolis, as he's got another GT3 behind him. That's the challenge of having a multi-class race. You have your own race you're worried about. John Voight's like, get out of my way. I want to pass the soup man in front of me, Lance Campbell. But these GT3s are saying, no, I'm not you because you're slow. The balance drivers recognize what's going on track.
As Cole Malley goes off track, as I think we caught that. Oh, and there's the loop.
Love saving the beauty.
Just a little Tokyo drift.
Oh, don't get that song stuck in my head. It's stuck.
You'll get that stuck in, yeah.
Dang you guys. Thanks.
Here we go. Jacob Connerman, Lakin Shaw, pro versus amateur. And Lakin Shaw gonna get by the 48 of Jacob Connerman.
Well, and that's an interesting point in the track to make that pass happen. And I'm saying that specifically because of the cars. As we see Christopher Coy is now coming down pit road. It's interesting because it's a technical portion of the track. And typically McLarens are much more technical of cars in terms of their strength.
It's a very, very good point. I'm doing the math kind of in front of me. The GT3s pit on lap 6. We're on lap 13 now. I'm pretty sure they're running this race backwards.
Which is very possible. And Joe, chime in if you have insight on this. But if it's me, I do want to ensure that at the very end of the race, I have as minimal fuel as possible in that car, because the less weight, the faster you go.
Especially at Le Mans.
Yeah, you've got the draft that you want to... Sorry, go ahead.
You have these immense straightaways with these really, really tight corners, and then it's straightaway again. So you want to keep that car as light as humanly possible to get through those corners and carry your speed, so you get maximized velocity on these longer straights. So low fuel load, definitely a plus.
Absolutely. And Joe, do you think that some of the gaps that we have here, I know we were talking about Daniel Pino, who unfortunately wrecked, but he was saving some fuel, which means that the amount that he was able to save before, do you think with these gaps, that's going to make a huge difference when it comes down to it? Or do you think we see all these cars come down on the same lap?
Had Pinot not wrecked with the fuel saving that he was doing, he would have leapfrogged Porsche on the last pit stop, and it would have been endgame.
Now he's fighting his way back through.
Yep, he had the perfect strategy going at that point. He was the fastest car on the track. He was sitting there just following the leader, saving a bunch of fuel, and that last pit stop, he was going to take on less fuel, be the same weight as that Porsche, and he would have had a clear advantage. But things happen. AKA racing.
Lance Campbell and John Voight are swapping positions back and forth. You mentioned the leapfrogging earlier. Well, it happens twice on the same stretch. There's one. That was Voight getting by Campbell. Watch that draft kick in. And there it is. Campbell's going to get by Voight. Very close, too.
Well, and that's where specifically, you had Stephen Smith, and I don't mean Stephen A. Smith because this Stephen Smith has talent. Like, he played a factor in what was going on because of the draft that was going on the track. All of that played a factor. We see Daniel Nans go off track, our leader in the GT4 class.
Yeah, he just dips it off into the gravel pit. He's got a 35-second lead over Jim Peely. So a tiny mistake, okay, but those tiny mistakes could lead into bigger mistakes really fast. He's got to start being careful as Lakin Shaw is coming to pit road.
Well, we're back on board. We got John Voight again battling Lance Campbell. That's the closest battle on track that we have going on. As we get to a very technical portion, we're seeing John Voight purposefully ensuring that he's able to back off a little bit, get great exits, and maximize his speed. As we see Lance Campbell get into the gravel a little bit, that's going to give John Voight an opportunity. He has to decide, do I make my turn right here, knowing Lance Campbell's able to make a run down the back straightaway and the long stretch that's going to happen, and he's making the decision, no, I'm going to sit behind you because you're going to be able to do a cut on me and come back. But if I can maximize this next exit, I'm even closer now. I can draft, I can make the pass happen.
Yeah, I don't think John Voight's in any hurry right now to make the pass. Within the last minute and a half we've been watching, his exits out of these turns has been absolutely phenomenal. If he could just keep doing that, he's going to make the pass off of pick a turn here. It really doesn't matter. And he's going to tuck up right behind Lance Campbell, get in that draft. And it looks like we have a black flag for Cameron Kilma.
Well, and it's possible. As we go through, I do my own math and calculations because, again, my math teachers taught me how to use a calculator because I never was told to use a calculator. I was told to do it in my head. No, I use a calculator. What we come down to is that when they came down pit road based off their lap times, we're looking at about 34.6 minutes in. And again, 0.6, you're looking at roughly 34 minutes and 40 seconds. Or actually 35 seconds. So doing that calculation, that tells me they're going to pit one more time on track, and they have to decide, am I going to pit early, have a heavier fuel load, or am I going to pit later on? And for me, if I'm able to sit behind Lance Campbell and save fuel, being John Voight, I'm going to sit behind him, save as much fuel as possible, knowing we only have one more pit stop. And if I can pit a lap or two after you because I've saved fuel, I have the advantage.
Just have to wait and find out for that, as it looks like Aiden Keeley is not having a good night at Le Mans. Getting a lot of airtime, but for the wrong reason. And this is right in front of your race leader. Whew. And speaking of your race leader, that gap is sitting right around 31.5 seconds over Spencer Duquette. Those drivers are pro. Then in third place overall and in first for the Pro-Am drivers, it's Brian Scott. Then you have two pro drivers, Justin Bach and Daniel Pino. In second place for the Pro-Am, you have Chet Miller, Jacob Cotterman in third, and Kenneth Cloden fourth. A lot of parity when it comes to these GT3 drivers and where they sit, as we'll start here with Christopher Cloden. The 619 Ford Mustang right in front of the leader as well. Boy, like they're getting scared of Avery Hart. And then Cameron Kilma with an issue right behind the leader in the Taco Bell car.
Hey, if you're Avery Hart, you gotta be thinking to yourself, what is everybody doing around me? Like, what's going on here?
The Go-Go Gadget oil slick.
Well, these drivers, the reason these spins are happening is they're trying to maximize their entries into both of those portions of the track. And that is, at least for how I've learned how to race road courses, I've raced go-karts in the past, and I've done sim racing. So I'm no expert by any means. But I've always been taught you maximize your exit. And that's the difference that you're seeing and why we have the spins.
And it looks like Kenneth Cloden, we just saw it earlier, about 30 seconds ago, on pit road. That is starting the GT3 drivers. But let's take a look. That gap is only grown in the GT4s over Jim Peel. Cole Malley hasn't been able to break in Jim Peely. That was just about a 1.5 second gap between the two of them before Malley spun out in Indianapolis just, I think, 2 laps ago. But your really close battle of the GT4s is Lance Campbell and John Voight, a 0.5 second separating the two of them. They should be hitting pit road in just about 4 to 5 more laps. They'll be good on one more stop. But we're sitting at an hour, everybody. We haven't hit a break. We're going to go pay some bills. Go say hello to the wonderful sponsors of All-Star 15 TV. And, if you can, Monster Designs. There's a QR code. Scan it. Go look at some liveries. And check them out. Huge shout out to them being series partners with High Point Racing. We'll be right back, everybody.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish. Goldberg goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
From Mordor to Hogwarts to Gotham, the nerds have come together to create a show for nerds by nerds. Join nerds doing nerd things as they talk about all things nerdy. Stay up to date on the show by liking the Nerds Doing Nerd Things Facebook page.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
We are back, everybody. You're looking at Daniel Nuss, but Cameron Kilma, you okay, buddy?
I feel like he's Cleveland in the bathtub now. Right there.
That is the laziest flip at Le Mans I've ever seen.
And it's not lazy because he didn't try. He tried to save it. It's just unfortunate.
And I don't think he's jumped the pit road. Oh, there he goes. It took him a while, but he was upside down for quite a bit. Here come the GT3 drivers down pit road, starting with Avery Hart. And while we were away doing the sponsors, getting them a little bit of love on the channel, we were talking. Daniel Pino is putting qualifying laps out there, everybody. Last time by, a 3-minute 53 lap. Everybody in front of him is about a second, if not more, slower. So this could really be interesting, because he's right on Justin Bach's back bumper, as it looks like they're all hitting pit road. Pino is staying out. He's gonna have complete open track.
Sorry, and I apologize. On pit road as well. So during that time we were watching the slow roll Cleveland bathtub flip, Lance Campbell came down pit road and John Foyt stayed out, which means he's doing the overcut on Lance Campbell. And that's that battle that I was saying earlier, the GT4 battle that's going to be really interesting to watch as this closes out. That pit strategy is going to come into play so much as we close out. How long does John Foyt stay out? Does he put down those blistering laps? And did he save enough to be able to make this overcut work?
Only time will tell, unfortunately. We're not privy to those numbers that these drivers have.
It's not scripted. I can tell you that.
No, it's not like that one baseball game I went to that ESPN told me that the guy was on first base and he was at bat.
I would have scripted all 12 cars all the way together as much as possible to the last lap. All 12 wreck except for number 9. And number 9 wins it. That's just me, though.
When does Pino hit pit road?
Well, in GT4 to start to announce it, so we had Aiden Keeley come over pit road, specifically in his Aston Martin. He's 2 laps down, sitting in 7th in his class. But he announced he's coming down pit road. So, how long will it be for John Boyd to come down pit road? Does he save enough fuel? When is that going to happen? I'm going to stay on board with him and find out.
And we're just looking at Aiden Kelly. He has to come to pit road. There's a meatball on that Aston Martin.
Well, I can tell you this time around, John Boyd is not coming down pit road as he goes through and finalizes this lap.
Another slowdown, it looks like.
Well, if you can remind me, AJ, how many off tracks in this series specifically do you get until you need to come down pit road? Do you know?
I'm trying to remember with Monday and what was it, Joe?
I think it's 15. I think it's 15. They're matched.
Got it. And if that's the case, so Daniel Pino right now, who's out front of our GT3 Pro field, he's currently sitting at 11 off tracks, and he has the most of all the vehicles that are off track. Now, granted, he's sitting at, actually, he just bumped up to 12. That is the case because he has had a spin. He has had off tracks. He has had different types of contact that he's had to deal with. Going down from there, you have then a look at our number 3 in GT4, which is Cole Malley. He's sitting currently at 8. Of drivers who are in top 3 contention within their series, those are the 2 with the most off tracks. And our GT4 drivers who are out front, Daniel Nans and Jim Peel, they don't have a single off track. And to put that in perspective, this is an hour-and-a-half race. We've gone through, we got 22 minutes left roughly. And the only drivers without a single incident, they didn't put a single tire off track. In the GT4, we have Lance Campbell, Jim Peel, and Daniel Nans. In the GT3 Pro-Am, Chet Miller has not put a single tire off track. And in the GT3 Pro, Spencer Duquette has not put a single tire off track. So I want to give a congratulations to those guys.
You know, you say that, and I wanted to stop you because the broadcaster's curse tonight has been a real thing.
Off tracks for everyone. I'm not apologizing.
You get an off track. You get an off track.
Call me Oprah Winfrey. I'm handing them out like I'm a Ford Mustang driver handing out contact.
Oh, jeez.
Oprah Winfrey. That's a reference.
Looking at Justin Bach as Brian Scott once again closing in. Yet to hit pit road on lap 18. Avery Hart is just sitting about 11 seconds back. Trying to put some serious gap between the two of them before having to pit, which I would assume would be this time. You would see that 88 Ford come to pit road.
Well, and at this point of the race, AJ, we have the sun going down. We're nearly completely dark. So for one, any car contact or minor contact with the wall that takes off your headlights, you have to come down pit road. This track is not lit. So that needs to be taken into consideration. It's not lit.
It's
Okay.
pretty dark.
But
It's a little dark.
But I wouldn't say he'd have to come down pit road. There is a broadcast on this channel that there's a vehicle for a majority of the race had no headlights and finished third.
Mike Robinson's not human. We're not talking about him.
But you knew exactly what I was talking about. I love it.
Because I was in that car. I knew exactly who you're talking about. But the thing is, this track is much darker than Petit Le Mans. I'm someone who's won at Petit Le Mans in a car that was beaten to crap. Now, granted, that's also the people we're racing against. If you touch anything, you have to come down pit road. And as this occurs, these pit strategies truly do come into play. I'm still sitting on board with John Voight, who has not come down pit road. We'll see if it happens this lap, but Lance Campbell has not had any benefit of any real draft going on to be able to maintain a higher speed. So it comes down as actually we do have John Voight coming down pit road. This is going to be real interesting to see, because did John Voight make up enough? These drivers had to make pure qualifying laps and figure out the best possible option for drivers to pass them or to be able to get drafted. Who did the most? We're going to see here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when Voight comes out of pit road. Where does Campbell in relative does he get by?
Well, John Voight, if he is not taking tires, which he is taking tires, his car just flipped off the ground. He is taking tires, so he's going to have cold tires even if he does come out in front. So if he comes out in front, he's going to be slower regardless because he does not have the heat in the tires. And if he comes out behind, I think it's game over. But for Lance Campbell, he has to make sure he gets through the final chicanes of this track and gets a great exit in order to ensure he makes the pass happen.
There he is on the front straightaway. Voight still in the box. There it is. There's the gap. Into turn one, Campbell goes. And that's what fresh Michelin tires looks like for these drivers.
Well, and if I'm honest... Go ahead.
I was just going to say they're going to have to be very, very careful on these fresh tires now.
Absolutely. Oh, boy. Remember the start of the race? Daniel Pino hitting pit road. Avery Hart will take the lead back. And there was the gap as you saw it. Where will that 88 Ford Mustang rejoin the pack? Great little battle between two GT3 drivers, but two separate classes. The 46 McLaren of Scott and the Aston Martin of Bach.
Well, and as we're going through that pit cycle, I do believe, and I'm trying to rack my memory, so if I say this incorrectly, I apologize. I think Jim Peel lost positions. I don't know if that was from a spin. I don't know if that's from a slowdown or what it was. But John Voight and Lance Campbell now are competing for essentially second and fourth, with Cole Malley being able to split that gap between them.
And Cole Malley just 2 seconds behind Lance Campbell and closing the last couple turns.
To me, that tells me that Cole Malley, Jim Peel, John Voight all took tires on that final stint. And Lance Campbell made the gamble and decided he was not going to take tires. And honestly, having the heat in the tires, if he did not wear them out at the beginning, with cold temperatures and a cold track with the sun going down, I want warm tires, because it's going to take forever for Cole Malley, John Voight, and Jim Peel to be able to have that opportunity to warm up their tires, as Cole Malley right now is 1.7 behind Lance Campbell.
Yeah, you mentioned that this track was going to cool off. We've stayed the same track temp, 68 degrees, while the ambient temperature outside has gone down from 69 to 67. So this track isn't cooling off as fast as we were expecting. But just looking at how these drivers are getting around the racetrack, it looks like there's more grip.
It does, because if I'm Lance Campbell and his crew chief, if he has one, and I don't know if he has one, I'm making the decision to play off of the temperature game, exactly what Joe was talking about and what Mike was talking about at the beginning of this race. So we'll find out, was that the right call? Because Cole Malley has lost a position based off of that strategy that Lance Campbell has made. And it's about, does Cole Malley have enough time now to pass Lance Campbell?
as we're looking at Daniel Nuss, the leader in the GT4s, and back up towards the front in the GT3s. Daniel Pino staying out. Before pit stops started, he was riding around in that 4th position. He is now gapped into 3rd, plus 12 seconds, 12 and a half seconds over Justin Bach in 4th, and is still closing in on the leaders ever so slightly. Well, most likely, if he keeps doing what he's doing, we'll get to Spencer Duquette, who's under 3 seconds. But he's going to need a mistake from Avery Hart or somebody in front of Avery Hart to make a mistake to possibly come talk to us, because we talked to all 3 winners here following the race. If you haven't yet, hit that like button, subscribe, follow. Chat rooms are open. Come talk to us. This race has been absolutely wild. It's a double points night. So some of these drivers doing really good. Gonna take a huge advantage going into the second half of the season. While some drivers, looking at the 7 of Jed Cotterman, who didn't need a perfect night, just needed an okay night, is sitting 7th in class. And just right now, hoping for the worst for other drivers.
Well, what's interesting is if I'm Chet Miller right now, and I'm looking at what my advantages are in order to gain positions on track, I almost want to back into Jacob Cotterman, because that's going to allow me to get a draft, but it's also going to possibly make me lose a position. I don't know. I'm reading that in different ways, the way I'm looking at it on track. Like, I don't want Jacob Cotterman to catch me under any circumstance. I want to hold my position. But if I'm looking at trying to gain as much speed as possible, I almost want him to.
Well, he might not have a choice.
I was gonna say, can you work that late? Work together this late in the race, though. That's the thing.
I don't think you can.
I think those pit stops were it. I don't think we're seeing another pit stop.
But that's just it. Where we saw them come down pit road, it depends. Were they faking us out? Were they truly working from the end of the race backwards? Did everyone in the field, because we saw GT3 Pro and GT3 Pro AM all came down at the same time. Were they truly working on that same strategy? Or is that the fuel we actually have to work with, and we're going to see them come down pit road with 6 to 8 minutes left to go? And if that's the case, I'm backing into, if we have another pit stop to go for 6 to 8 minutes left, I'm backing into Jacob Cotterman to get as much of a draft as possible to come down pit road where we maximize all of our speed throughout the track.
Brandon, like I said before, might not have a choice to. Jacob Cotterman, almost 2 seconds faster last time by, has that gap that we just saw, about 3 seconds, 1.2 right now.
Well, and I'm a McLaren person, so I'm going to always root for the McLaren to do well. That's my car. I love those. We'll always love those. So those things are great around track. I think Jacob Cotterman can make something happen.
Oh, you're talking about, though, having pit stops with like 6 or 8 minutes to go. You talk about how much these crews need to be on the lookout for the drivers to say, hey, I'm coming to pit road. And it's like, you're only going to put maybe a splash or 2 of fuel to get yourself back out there.
Exactly. And you don't want to take tires for sure. So that makes sense why drivers would take tires potentially in that middle stint. But honestly, I would have taken them at the very beginning and then nothing else the rest of the day. And I don't know if they'll go the whole race.
As that gap is just over a half a second, there's the 2 of them right there going into the final chicane on the Mulsanne straight. There's that draft. Even. Coming down to the right-hander.
Well, is we got Cole Malley going down pit road right now. So when we talk about John Voight trying to collect him, or even Lance Campbell trying to pull away, Cole Malley's
got a
coming
black
down
flag.
pit road. And that's interesting because Cole Malley right now only has 9 incident points on track.
Maybe he didn't serve a slowdown.
It's very possible. You get about 3 laps to be able to decide if you're serving that once you come down pit road. I mean, he is just doing a drive-through only, so that black flag, as you said, is correct.
And we're going side by side with Chet Miller here. That Ally machine, they're going side by side down the straightaway. With Jacob Cotterman looking at that inside. Who's going to give?
The wall, when you hit it hard enough.
Oh no, don't say that.
And Cotterman gave way. He's like, yep. Not forcing that.
It's still
Well, that's it.
It's still too early. There's just under 9 minutes remaining. You guys are this close. To force something like that might still be a little too early, Mike.
Especially if somehow these guys, like we mentioned, do have to come for a last second pit stop. So yeah, that is true.
Yeah, if there's a last second pit stop, I agree, let him go. If there's not, if you think about 9 minutes and you're running sub 355 to force minutes for a lap time, you have 2 laps to go, and the amount of opportunities to make passes, if you think about it, you really don't have much. You have the Dunlop chicane, you have your bus stops throughout the Mulsanne Straight, if that. You have Mulsanne, you have the Indy turn, and you've got diving down into the 4 chicane maybe. You have 4 passing zones that are truly quality. I don't know that you want to just give someone a turn unless you have a pit stop.
Hey, we just had a change for P2. Daniel Pino getting by Spencer Duquette. Into Indianapolis.
What a muscular pass.
That 88 is...
Oh, we got contact. That was Steven Smith. He had a little bit of contact there. Whew, that was
Lincoln
sketchy.
Shaw, Steven Smith.
That was really sketchy.
Oh!
That's a late and desperate dive, if I'm being honest.
I think he gave the position back. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and I like to see that. If you make a bad decision, I give the spot back every single time, because that's about respect, especially in a league where you're racing each other every single week. If I messed up on a turn and it causes a conflict, I'm giving it back.
Oh, Lincoln Shaw's now spun it. He is now spun it. He's getting back on track now.
Lincoln was trying his best to hold on to a really good finish this evening. And it looks like he's going to right now finish last in class. That one's gonna hurt. Gonna hurt the points too.
Well, and as Mike pointed out, we saw that in the bus stop, and as we're explaining that whole situation, I think he's overdriving the car a little bit too much. He's trying to get some things back. I think he needs to take some notes for next week and finish out this race with the car on track. That's what I would be doing.
Real quick, speaking of next week, we go back to an hour race. But Joe, you're really gonna like this. We're running the boot at Watkins Glen.
All right.
And if you want to preview the next couple weeks, we have Hockenheim on November 12th, Road Atlanta November 19th, Silverstone on December 3rd, December 10th we go to Spa, and to close out this season, round 12, the last 90-minute event, the Daytona Road Course.
Very nice.
I know this season was stacked with some amazing tracks.
Who created this schedule? Because give them a bag of Cheetos and an award, because that's a great way to finish out the season. I will say personally,
Jacob Carterman get to Chet Miller? They're starting to separate again, Brandon.
They're separating a little. They also had. I've been on board with Jacob Connerman. They threw out the Porsche curves and the Corvette curves. They did have other traffic to deal with. We see him. He's closing that gap back down. He's not going to lose a ton on this exit. He's a little bit loose, but he's going to get to be about probably 0.6 to maybe 0.7. He's still going to have no drafting issue. I think what we're seeing here, as we're probably coming down to eventually the white flag lap, with 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go, we're going to see him setting himself up for the best possible turn to be able to make the pass.
Christopher Grodin, GT4 driver, P6.
Oh. Lights out.
Lights out, yeah.
We are going
If you saw how dark that got, that's why you need your front bumper here.
We're just going to jump on board with that, because that was a hell of a hit.
And if you may, AJ, once he crashes, if you can pause it just to show everyone, even in a portion of the track where there is a little bit of light, you cannot see anything. You cannot see anything. If you wreck at this portion of the race and take off that front bumper, that is game over. You are towing your car. Whether you're Brian Scott or Avery Hart, who are currently out front, or Daniel Nons out front, if you touch that front bumper, your race is over.
That was a hell of a hit. We'll be coming around to grab the white flag next time by Avery Hart, 26 seconds ahead of Daniel Pino. At one point, this battle was just tenths separating the two of them. Daniel Pino found himself into a sand pit, and that gap just absolutely was astronomical. Daniel Pino spent the last 10 or so laps closing in on Avery Hart. Looks like he's going to only be able to get to P2 as this time by...
Oh. For some reason, I thought Avery Hart was pulling the pit road there for just like a brief second. I was like, wait a second.
Well, and I can tell you, Kenneth Floden asked everybody who has to come down pit road, and he's like, I don't have to, barely. Everyone else is probably running it close as Avery Hart's coming across that start-finish line.
Should be for the white flag. Unfortunately, it does not tell us.
I got 1:18 left in the session on my screen.
Keep looking at Barney the flagman, and he's not moving, so maybe not. Here we go. Jed Connerman, Chet Miller, P2 in the Pro-Ams.
You think, Brandon, it's now go time to make that move?
Oh, it's go time. You have one lap to make your move at this point. Or if you have passed the start-finish line and you did not receive the white flag, you have less than 2 laps to make your move. I'm making the move early. I'm ensuring that I don't leave any opportunity. I'd rather be out in front anyway. If I'm sitting close enough, I make that move, and I ensure that I know where my blocking zones are. There are certain areas on track you know you need to block into, specifically into Mulsanne. Indianapolis is one, it's a passing zone, but it's not really a blocking zone, so for that one, I just ensure I maximize. Outside of that, those are really the only 2 passing zones that I'm worried about blocking in. Everything else, I just have to maximize in, and no one's going to pass me if I'm running a perfect line and I'm not side by side.
Ooh, that's a good run right there. Here we go. Side by side.
Well, and that right there, if you don't maximize that turn, and by maximize, I'm not talking about maximizing your entry. You have to nail your apex, you have to nail the exit, otherwise you will get
contact. Sorry.
Wow.
No, that was intense.
Oh, he's off
We're off
track.
track here. Well, there's going to
Cotterman
be off-track
P2.
complications. Chet Miller's going to have a black flag. He's going to have to serve specifically as a slowdown black flag for the way he took that corner. And that's not his fault. That's the nature of the beast. That's why I want to make that move happen, and I want to make that gap happen.
Jacob Cotterman forces a Chet Miller mistake on what very well could be the final lap here at Le Mans, round 6 of the High Point GT Challenge. Wow. And is pulling away. Now a second separating the two of them.
Well, and that's just it. Though this track is so long, we've talked about other tracks being shorter, whether it be in this race or other leagues that we've broadcasted for. When a track is more condensed, you can have 14 turns at Road America and have 14 turns at Watkins Glen, or roughly. You know, they're similar. I don't know the exact turn count off the top of my head without it in front of me. Call me a noob, it's fine. They're close enough, but the mileage length is so much more different, which is where here, yes, we have a long turn count, but when you break it down by mileage, you have so much time to make decisions that you have to make the right one when it counts.
Daniel Pino has a new person to battle with. Spencer Duquette under 0.4 of a second. As Avery Hart for the final time goes through the Porsche chicanes onto the front straightaway and takes the win at Le Mans.
Well, I believe Daniel Pino made it count when it needed to count. He's someone that I think, had he gotten that opportunity and had not spun, we could be talking to somebody else after this race. And not to sell short anything Avery Hart had done, he ran an incredible race. But as we see Daniel Pino then come across the line, it looks like in P2.
And Spencer Duquette, P3 indeed. Daniel Noss has taken the checkered flag for the GT4s. He will. Wow, great job by Daniel Noss.
I was going to say another dominating performance by Daniel Noss, too.
All three of your, well, I'll just say winners started on their pole in the respective divisions. Avery Hart, P1 to P1. Brian Scott, P5 on the grid, but P1 with the Pro-Am drivers. And Daniel Noss, P1 to P1.
Looks like Cotterman's going to hold off Chet Miller here. A little bit of a gap still.
Yeah, that gap has grown to just over a second. It looked like Chet Miller was really trying to send it those last couple turns as Cotterman's heading towards the Porsche chicanes.
One in that GT4 series as they closed out, Lance Campbell and John Voight, they had about a 17-second difference between the two of them. That tire change was all the difference for John Voight, as it turned out.
What a great race. Such a fun race.
It really was.
It was. Le Mans delivers, that's for sure.
And if I may, AJ, whenever you go through and you have your interview questions, I do have a question specifically for Avery Hart, if it is possible.
Yeah, I will let you interview Avery Hart. How about that?
Oh, I haven't done one of those in a while. I know I've been on broadcast a little bit, but that's been a hot second. I can do it. I'll figure it out.
You got this.
I know you. I know you can do it. I'm not worried about it. But
as long as you pull people.
Yeah, I will. But let's start with the GT4 winner, the 95 BMW, Daniel Noss, P1 to P1. Great win. Congratulations. How was it out there this evening?
It was pretty good race, I think. The start was pretty good. There was very minimal traffic It was very chill through the night. It was just a fun race to have.
Was there any issues throughout the race, whether it was the sun going down, the track getting cooler, any pit strategy? Was there any adversity that 95 crew and yourself had to overcome?
It was not really that much of problems. Just going through the pit ins and pit outs throughout the race is really the main problems that always need to be handled.
Well, brother, great win in the GT4s from flag to flag. Next week we go to Watkins Glen. What do we got? What are we gonna see from the 95 when we go to the Watkins Glen?
I feel like we're pretty good with that. We always got a solid setup. The car always feels great around Watkins Glen. I practice there a lot. I've had fun races at Watkins Glen, and I think it should be fun.
All right, dude. Well, before we let you go celebrate the GT4 win, got any sponsors you like to plug?
Just High Point Racing, bringing in a lot of good drivers, great fun, and just the owner doing a great job.
All right, brother. Congratulations once again. Thanks for coming and talking with us, and we'll see you in New York next week.
Thanks.
All right, that's Daniel Nass, everybody. Let's get P1 in the GT3 Pro Am. It's the one, the only, Brian Scott. Dude, from no nose to having a nose to winning the Pro-Ams.
I know, right? I didn't know my front clip came off. Like I bumped into Caffrey. I wasn't expecting any brakes there, and I just plowed right into him.
Yeah, and you lost everything. Like, you were blind.
Oh, dude. Well, I was worried about the lights, but I couldn't turn left really good, but I could turn right just fine. So I actually caught back up to him right before we had to pit. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that didn't really hurt me at all.
Yeah, and that was one thing we were really wondering, if you were going to have to come down pit road early to service the vehicle, to get a new nose put on. But you toughed it out. You stayed out until you needed to pit for fuel and possibly tires. What kind of thought went through your head afterwards that you might have a shot back at a podium in the Pro-Ams, or even a win? Like, did you see that as a possibility?
Oh yeah. Well, I wasn't too terribly worried about it. I know I had really good pace on here. I think that 6.5, 7 hours I spent on Le Mans last weekend really helped. But yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't really terribly worried about it, especially after hitting him. And then I was like, well, I got a few turns left before I know I need a pit or not. So, and I knew this was going to be probably a two-stopper anyway, so I really wasn't too terribly worried about having an extra pit stop, because I think it would have played out pretty close anyways at the point we were at. But I don't know. After I hit him, I was like, oh no, well, there it goes. Especially after in practice, I had really, really good pace. You know, I was like, well, I can get it as long as I can keep it between the lines. But yeah, I think I just really got lucky on that damage, is all it really is.
Yeah, that really could have been a lot worse than it really was. It was just no headlights for another lap or two before hitting pit road. Before we let you go, we go to Watkins Glen next week. What are we expecting out of that 46?
I just raced Watkins Glen on Monday. I'm okay there. I love the track. I'm just not as good there as I am in other places, but I got time to practice, so who knows? Maybe I'll get lucky again.
Hey, if you win next week, I wouldn't call it luck. I would just call it you're good at it.
Well, yeah, well, I was really needing this one to catch me back up. My first two races were just horrible, like horrible races. So
Man,
I
double
think one
points
of
is
them,
fun, isn't it?
yeah. So I was like, I was really pumped up for this one, you know. So I'm like, oh man, that was a gift from God if I've ever seen one.
All right, brother. Before we let you go, plug those beautiful sponsors if you got any.
Just shout out to Jed and everybody else in this league, man. We just have a great time. There's some really fun guys to race with in here, and I mean, week in, week out, it's just a blast. I look forward to it. I barely even do any officials anymore now. I got into doing league races with these guys.
It's a pleasure always seeing you, always talking with you, dude. Thanks for coming and chilling with us, and congrats once again at the win at Le Mans.
Oh yeah, man. You guys have a good one, man. Thank you.
See you later, Brian. All right, Brandon. You ready?
I am ready for you, sir.
Here is the winner in the GT3 Pro. It's Avery Hart. Brandon, take
And
it
Avery
away.
Hart, to ask you, do you have a copy on us? Because you were lights out all day, and we're hoping you don't have lights out on this interview. Do you got us?
Yes, hello.
All right, perfect. As we go through, tell us real quick. I mean, you were lights out all day, as I was saying. How did the car feel, and how did the race change for you, and how did you feel out there today?
Car felt great. I'm surprised I didn't die through Porsche curves the few times I took it pretty fast. But I mean, other than that, it was good. I was deathly afraid of when Pino went out and he got back on track and he was ahead of me, and I think he was fuel saving a little bit. I didn't know how much fuel he took. So, you know, that kind of scared me a little bit. I was going to have to fight that and catch those 11 seconds back up, but he ended up pitting. So, yeah, overall, it was a great race.
Well, and that was going to be the reason I wanted to interview you. So obviously, you typically or anyone else would be interviewed by AJ. But as we were going through and watching the beginning portion of that race, we were specifically elaborating on the fact that Daniel Pino was sitting behind you. He was not passing you on purpose. And in an endurance race, you ensure you take care of your equipment, you ensure you take care of your fuel. And Daniel Pino was setting himself up. How did that alter your strategy of the race, knowing he was doing that? Did you recognize that? And once he had his incident, did your strategy change?
Yeah, so I'll answer your first question. So first question, all I thought about was how I was going to continue pushing while maintaining a small gap away from him, right? You know, because he was on me about half a second, so I had to at least continue to make sure I was focusing and taking my racing line and not messing up by any means. But the strategy did change after he ended up wrecking. So I ended up kind of slowing down a bit around the Porsche curves and taking my turns a little easier and lifting and coasting in a lot of the turns so I can continue to save fuel and just in case by whatever happens, right? So, you know, there was little to no traffic, and the few times I did hit traffic, it wasn't so much affecting me. I mean, my lap times did drop a little bit, but overall, as long as I kept the race clean, I was going to come out on top.
Absolutely. And even looking at your lap times, I mean, you only had a 2 second gap. And when we're talking about taking 4 minutes around this track, that difference, most fans are not going to recognize that level of focus that it takes to alter 2 seconds, but it truly does. So kudos to you and a great race completely run and the methodical process about battling your own battle versus other people's battles. Do you have any sponsors, though, as we close out that you'd like to go ahead and plug or anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, I want to shout out Adrenaline Motorsports, race team that I race for. Phenomenal race group, and I wouldn't be here without them. So, and then shout out to the admins of the league for High Point Racing, and shout out to Pino and Lakin. Those guys are great. I love racing with them from time to time, and shout out to all the racers in the league because without them, this league wouldn't exist, right? And finally, shout out to you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast. So, thank you.
Absolutely. And to close out your win, you know, you finished a Daniel Pino, go close out a Pinot Noir or something along those lines, and appreciate everything you do. So have a good night, sir.
Appreciate it. Take it easy, guys.
All right, that was your winners in each class. That was fun, boys. Mike, take us home, dude.
Boy, AJ, that was a lot of fun. Le Mans always delivered. That's for sure. Great race overall. They put on one heck of a show, and I'm looking forward to going to Glen next week. Track I know a little bit more particularly and have driven in the past, so I'm looking forward to going to the Glen next week and running the boot.
Joe, if you still got internet, what are your thoughts on tonight's race?
It didn't have chaos. It was a smooth race, other than second place overall, sitting there kissing the wall. It was pretty clean and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot of multi-car chaos. I think if there was chaos, it was all single car initiated. And Brandon, thank you for interviewing Avery Hart. What are your final thoughts on tonight's race?
My first thought is, Joe, don't dog the Mustang for doing Mustang things and hitting things. But at the same time, Campeggio, you were completely correct. This race was absolutely amazing. And going into next week, knowing that we're going to take similarities of this track in the long straightaways that occur and small intricacies of talent that it's going to take to get through bus stops and the challenging corners, next week is going to be a more chaotic version of this week.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning into All-Star 15 TV's broadcast of the High Point Racing League GT Challenge, race number 6 here at Le Mans. Thank you guys very much. Hit that like button, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you on the next broadcast, everybody.
Deuces.
There it is.
Later.